Today's class we discuss about Arab Republics, lesson 4, page number 69 to 71. This is where we identified Egypt and Syria as republics, identified some characteristics of those countries and their leaders. Who rules the country if it is a republic? A president rules them with the parliament, group of representatives elected by the people of the country. Egypt is one of the biggest republics in the Arab world. It has a very interesting history that has attracted many people over the years. How many kinds of Arab republics are there? Two kinds, democracies and dictatorships. What might the difference between the two kinds of republic be? Democracies follows a constitution and people elect their own representatives, while a dictatorship is ruled by the dictator and which might be a one or one साले तुम आगे शोर पोर कर लिया करो recording. What might the difference between the two kinds of republic be? Democracies follow a constitution and people elect their own representative, while dictatorship is ruled by a dictator, which might be one person or a group of people who take the decision in a country. Can you give two or more examples of republic? Algeria, Comoros, Djibouti, Egypt, Iraq, Palestine, Lebanon. बहुत तेरे अंदर. Can you give two or more examples of republic? Algeria, Comoros, Djibouti, Iraq, Egypt, Palestine, Lebanon, Libya, Mauritania, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Tunisia, and Yemen. The timeline of the history of Egypt: 3100 BC, before the birth of Jesus. Important historical event. King Menes of Upper Egypt conquered Lower Egypt and formed his empire. Ancient Egypt was divided into two parts, upper to the south and lower to the north. This division is related to the flow of the Nile River from eastern Africa going north to the Mediterranean Sea. So, Upper Egypt is to the south of Lower Egypt and Lower Egypt is mainly the Nile Delta. 2200 till up to 2700 BC, the pyramids of Giza and the Great Sphinx were built. 640 AD, after the birth of Jesus, the Roman Empire in Egypt was conquered by the Islamic armies, and Egypt started to belong to the Islamic Empire, thus keeping the freedom of choice whether to convert to Islam or not. 1798 AD, the French forces and the French navy under Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Egypt through the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and occupied it for 3 years. To reassure people, Napoleon brought some scholars and scientists who uncovered the Rosetta Stone, whereas the Egyptians struggled to get their freedom, especially after massacres committed by the French soldiers and leaders, and eventually Napoleon was forced to withdraw with his forces from Egypt after 3 years of occupation. 1867 AD, Said and Ibrahim Ali built the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal is a waterway in Egypt which connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. It is important because it allows transportation between continent of Europe and Asia without moving around Africa. 1882 AD, Egypt was conquered again by the British forces, an invasion that lasted for around 70 years. 1990 AD, Saad Zaghloul, the leader of the revolutionists against the British occupation, was exiled, sent away from the country, and banished. 1922 AD, Egypt was declared, announced as a country with a government, constitution, and a parliament. 1952 AD, Egypt was freed from the British occupation and got its independence. What happened after Egypt had gained its independence? After gaining its independence from the different occupation, Egypt's new era began with Jamal Abdel Nasser, the second president of the Egyptian Republic. During Abdel Nasser's reign, the Israelis occupied the Suez Canal. After Abdel Nasser's death, Anwar al-Sadat came next as the president of Egypt. Egypt and Syria united together and were able to start a war against Israel in 1973. They were able to free the Sinai Peninsula from Israeli occupation. The Sinai Peninsula is a triangle piece of land in Egypt, lying between the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. Anwar al-Sadat was killed. Hosni Mubarak came to rule the country after him as the new president of the Egyptian Republic. He led Egypt into being one important country in the Arab world. Large demonstration against Mubarak started after 30 years of him being a president. President Mubarak resigned and turned power to the military forces. Later, a couple of presidents took over the presidency. Finally, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi became the sixth president of Egypt. Another important republic in the Arab world is the Republic of Syria. Agriculture and cattle, domestic or farm animals breeding, controlling the mating and production of animals and plants, appeared first in Syria among all other countries in the world. Even civilization in Syria was amongst the most ancient civilization on earth. Syria was occupied by many empires during history. In the year 1920, Syria was occupied by the French troops, although it was under the control of the Ottoman Empire for many years. In the year 1936, Syria was announced as a republic under the first Syrian president, Hashim al-Attasi. In the year 1944, Syria was declared as an independent republic. In the year 1970, President Hafiz al-Assad became the Syrian president and started developing the government. In the year 2000, after President Hafiz al-Assad passed away, he was succeeded by his son Bashar al-Assad. Syria is bordered by Jordan to the south, Iraq to the east, Turkey to the north, and Lebanon and the Mediterranean Sea to the west. Damascus is the capital city of Syria.